Now broadcasting from his hidden bunker and fully stocked bar, it is the Saturday Report with Colt Sebastian Taylor.
Thank you and welcome once again, my friends, to the Saturday Report with me, Colt Sebastian Taylor, adventurer, entrepreneur, and amateur Stratego player. Welcome to AWSM Radio, an independent digital-only radio station that plays today's best hits, old school classics, along with a rotating cast of all-star DJs. AWSM Radio focuses on mainstream artists, independent artists, along with a variety of interesting talk and music shows throughout the day. All we do is entertain, inspire, and inform. And my friends, I want to engage with you, and I want you to be part of the conversation. So, find me on the Twitter, on the Instagram, on the Rizzle, at Colt S. Taylor, and catch up with all of my adventures and everything I'm doing at ColtSebastianTaylor.com. All right, my friends, let's get started on this week's Saturday Report. We start off this week with some sad sports news. Hank Aaron, who beat Babe Ruth's home run record, passed away at the age of 86 this week. He played for 21 seasons with the Milwaukee/Atlanta Braves, and then 2 seasons with the Milwaukee Brewers. He hit 755 home runs and a baseball record that lasted for 33 years, which is pretty incredible. Currently, Hank Aaron holds the records for most runs batted in at 2,297, extra base hits at 1,477. He is the top 5 for career hits at 3,771, runs 2,174, and he is one of only 4 players to have at least 17 seasons of 150 hits or more. He's second in home runs. His record was eventually beaten by Barry Bonds, and he's also second for the most at-bats at over 12,000, and third place for the most games played, 3,298. Well, when he retired, he held almost every one of the game's career power hitting records, which is just, incredible. He began his career in 1954, and he retired in 1976 with Major League Baseball. He also played in the Negro Leagues with the Indianapolis Clowns in 1952. So his career spanned a lot of history in terms of baseball. And he passed away this week, unfortunately, at the age of 86. He was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1982 with 97.83% of the first ballot votes. I'm not sure what that 2.17% was thinking. They must have been pitchers that he hit home runs off of. So I thought I'd bring that up. If you're a big baseball historian nerd and whatnot. I mean, I am not, but I do know who Hank Aaron is, and he was a record holder. So, like I said, he passed away this week at the age of 86, and if you go back, see some of his interviews and some of his highlight hits, you'd be doing yourself a favor, especially if you are a baseball fan. In other trivia news, whatnot, this week marked the only time snow and flurries have ever been seen in Miami, Florida. This came across the Colt Sebastian Taylor news desk here at AWSM Radio, and I had heard of it, but I decided to do a little more reading into it because it's in Miami. You don't normally associate with snow. It was known as the Great Cold Wave of January 1977. It was the only known trace of snow in the greater Miami area, Florida, ever reported. The cold air extended so far south that apparently the Bahamas reported seeing flurries in the air. So that's about as far south as snow has ever gotten in Florida. According to the National Weather Service, snow flurries have never been seen in 300 years in the Key West or the Florida Keys, but it did once get to Miami. Obviously, Florida, known for its warm weather, people were unprepared to see snow. Apparently, they got out of their cars and were just looking up and looking at the snow. Some folks have always lived in Florida their entire life, so they've never seen snow. It's quite the scene. Not to mention the houses down there, not really built for chilly weather, so they had some issues down there. But the biggest issue they had was from agricultural loss. Obviously, they grow a lot of fruits down there, oranges and whatnot. Oranges do not take well to freezing weather. In fact, it can really damage the crops. Apparently, the damage to the crops in Florida from the cold snap cost $350 million in 1977. Today, that would be over, that'd be a whole lot. It'd be $350 million in 1977, and overall losses due to the cold snap in the South were over $2 billion. Which I don't know. I don't have a calculator on my hand, but that'd be a whole lot more today. It would do a massive amount of damage down there. It was pretty amazing. This time in 1977, around this time in January, it got real cold in Miami, and it snowed. Moving on to real estate news. Yes, I cover all subjects here on the Saturday Report with Colt Sebastian Taylor. Dave Stewart. He is a pitcher formerly of the Oakland Athletics. He played for 8 seasons and helped win the team a World Series in 1989, and he is spending $115 million on a piece of real estate. Is it an amazing baseball mansion? No. A moon colony with Elon Musk? Probably not. No, my friends. He's buying the city share of the Oakland Coliseum. Yes, it's a baseball stadium. It's where the Oakland Raiders used to play before they moved to the Las Vegas. Now they're known as the Las Vegas Raiders. So he is buying half of the Coliseum. The A's currently own the other half of the Coliseum. So he is going to, he bought the city out. He has ideas about developing the area, potentially building a new stadium altogether. He's investing in the area. He grew up in the area, and he's giving back to the community, buying the shares, going to develop the area for the community around there. So, hey, if I had $150 million and I had a connection to a community, I might do the same thing. I mean, not if I only had $150 million, but I'm sure he's getting a little bit of financing on the side and whatnot. But I think it's great that they're doing this. I mean, there's a lot of these old stadiums, they just knock down, put a parking lot in or a casino, but this pitcher has connections to the area. He's buying it, developing it, and we'll see what he does with the area. I mean, I wish I had $115 million. I wouldn't buy a Coliseum. I'd probably just lay around all day. I would not be as productive as former Oakland Athletics pitcher Dave Stewart. No, he seems like a bit of a go-getter. Anyways, something to watch, especially if you are a Saturday Report fan living in the Oakland area. That area is going to be developed and see some improvements over the next several years. Time for a Saturday Report story update. I do like to go back to the archives of the Saturday Report with Colt Sebastian Taylor and see if there's any updates on any particular stories. And one came across my desk here. Do you remember our old, young, lovely friend, Skylar Mack? No? Well, let me remind you. She went to the Cayman Islands during the pandemic to watch her boyfriend compete in a jet ski racing competition, because apparently that's a thing. The Cayman government asked her to quarantine for 14 days. She did not. She got originally 40 hours of community service and a $2,600 fine. But the judges sentenced both of them to a far stricter sentence due to their arrogance and selfishness, quote, unquote. So they gave her, instead of 40 hours of community service, 4 months in jail for flagrantly and deliberately ignoring COVID-19 protocols, just leaving the hotel, hanging out in the crowd, watching her boyfriend, I guess, race jet skis, because that's what he does. Eventually, that was reduced to 2 months, but she spent 2 months in jail in the Cayman Islands. But she finally came home. I don't think they'll be letting her back in anytime soon. She is finally back home in, I believe in Alabama. Alabama. Again, she expressed extreme regret and remorse for her very big mistake she made. But they kept her in there for a whole 2 months. The Cayman Islands, which has 65,000 people, it is a British overseas territory in the Caribbean, during the COVID pandemic has had 380 cases and only 2 deaths. So they take their protocols pretty seriously over there. When you get there, you gotta quarantine for 14 days. I'm sure there's a probably gets shortened if you test, but you still gotta probably have to hold out for like 7 days before they test you again. And I bet if I had to guess, the next time she is told to or asked politely to do something by the authorities, I imagine Miss Mac here will obey. Will obey that request. Her boyfriend is 24-year-old, holy moly, Vanjay Ramgit. I'm sure if you're a big jet ski competitive racing nerd, like we all are, you know who he is. So they both isolated for 2 days, tested negative, and then they left their tracking devices, because when you're down there, they give you a little tracker so they can keep track of you, and then left it behind the hotel to go do the race. So, a little arrogant, a little perhaps laissez-faire towards COVID-19, and they got popped for it. So, but she's home, and I'm sure Mr. Ramgit is back on the waves racing a jet ski. I guess they race around buoys? Am I saying that right? Like little floaty things? I don't know, I just can't wrap my mind around that. Competitive jet ski racing. Yeah. Anyways, I want to give you that update. We're staying with water and talking about cruise lines next. Cruise lines, not the most popular tourist-related thing during COVID-19. As you may remember, the cruise ships were the big first problems they had. Well, my friends, there is a cruise line called Saga Cruise Lines. They are a over 50 cruise line, which means you young kids can't go on there with your whatever wild cruise ship ways. It's a cruise line designed specifically for older people over 50. Well, they are now mandating, they are the first cruise line in the world mandating that you have to get vaccinated for COVID-19 before you're board. It's a hefty new safety measure. You have to get the vaccine at least 14 days before departure. They will also be testing all passengers before they get on the ships, and all ships will have reduced capacity and will have a very enhanced cleaning regimen on board. They are not accepting passengers yet. They plan to restart operations on May 4th, so Grandma and Grandpa, Woogie, you've got time to get vaccinated for your over 50 cruise. So they're giving some people some time to get that, and then they'll be relaunching it. So they're the first cruise line to do this. Obviously, since they are geared towards the older crowd, which is a little bit more high risk than the rest of us, it makes sense. A few cruise lines have tried to start up again during COVID-19 with quote-unquote enhanced testing and cleaning. It hasn't worked out well. They've had to stop almost immediately because someone comes on board, gets sick, gets everyone else sick, and then that's it. This is probably what they're going to be doing on a lot of cruise ships until everyone is vaccinated. So some of other Saga's health enhancements include social distancing, which means, they're going to have less people on board. They've enhanced their state-of-the-art air conditioning that provides 100% fresh air in all public areas and cabins, so no recycling of the air. That was what the big problem was on the cruise ships, is that everyone was breathing the same air and breathing out the virus, and it would go from one cabin to another cabin and whatnot, and it would just be a problem. They're having improved medical facilities. They'll have a dedicated isolation area, so if someone does get sick, they can easily isolate them out from the rest of the crew and passengers until they figure out what's wrong. And they'll also be doubling doubling their medical team on all ships. So that's what they're doing. I've actually never been on a cruise, and I don't think I'm going to be going on one anytime soon, at least not until I get my poke in the arm. But, we'll see what happens with this. Hopefully it goes well. I mean, you got the crew that's always in danger. But, they're going to try to be restarting in May. This, just a side note, this reminds me when the COVID all sort of broke out, there was a couple in the Maldives, which are an island chain nation south of India in the Indian Ocean. And they said, hey, we got to evacuate, and this is your last chance. And they had just arrived for their honeymoon. And said, well, okay, listen, it's going to be 2 weeks. Shut things down. Things will calm down. Worst case, we stay for an extra week. Well, as you may have heard, things did not calm down, and they ended up being stuck on this island resort. The only 2 guests in this entire island resort that I guess houses like, at least 1,000, 2,000, fully staffed because the staff can't leave until the last guests leave, and they're stuck there for 4 months. They're stuck there for 4 months because no boat would come to get them. The airport was closed. They tried to get a private jet, but like if you book a private jet, it ain't cheap. It's tens of thousands of dollars, and it was just cheaper for them just to hang out there and stay there. So they extended honeymoon in this island resort, and as much fun as resorts are, after 4 months you probably have done everything there was to do. And then how bored would the staff be? They just hang out all day. Maybe they'll see the couple. If not, it's just, checking scuba gear, getting clean the pool, and just sitting in absolute silence. Fortunately, I believe everyone got paid, thank goodness. But they did eventually get out of there. But anyways, cruise ship and that little story both remind me of that. Allow me to remind you, my friends, in case, you've just come out of a coma, you have a short-term memory issue, you've decided to be a hermit since June. First, welcome back. Second, things are pretty terrible, but they're starting to change a little bit. And third, you've missed out, my friend. You've missed out because you've missed every Friday at 9 p.m., every Sunday at 10 p.m. to listen to my pal DC live in effect right here on AWSM Radio. You do not want to miss this show because he is smashing it on the ones and twos, kicking the beats from his hermetically sealed South Florida compound week in and week out. You just can't miss it. You just can't miss it. Simple as that. You can't miss it. 9 p.m. Fridays, 10 p.m. on Sundays. DC live in effect right here, my friends. Right here on AWSM Radio. Moving along, but keeping with entertainment, Netflix, the popular streaming service, reached 200 million subscribers. As you may have guessed, folks are staying home a bit more these days. They need things to binge on, and Netflix has added a bunch of new subscribers, ending last quarter with over 200 million subscribers. They added just a little bit over 8.5 million new subscribers in the last 3 months of last year. Some of their most popular shows, which I've seen both, Bridgerton, if you love the period pieces, and The Queen's Gambit, if you love chess. Really good stuff. I've enjoyed it immensely. And they're producing original work. They're increasing subscribers. And pretty amazing stuff they're doing there. But they hit 200 million subscribers. That's a lot of data streaming. You need to have a good internet connection if you're gonna have the Netflix. Like I said, I actually also, I believe Netflix. Yes, Cobra Kai. That's another good show on there. So if you need things to watch, Cobra Kai, Bridgerton, and The Queen's Gambit, I've set you off for a week or two. It depends on how much you binge. But they remain a powerhouse in the streaming world. As you may remember from a previous episode, they've had a few competitors, but they have not fared well. Quibi, the streaming service that offered 10-minute shows, That's gone. That's done. Bye-bye. And they're holding up there. Netflix is holding up there. So, if you haven't tried it out, try out Netflix, and you're going to find a lot of content on there. Not my show yet. Not yet. But, one of these days, there'll be the making of the Saturday Report with Colt Sebastian Taylor, and you can see me record my show, and then just surrounded by booze and ladies of ill repute. No, I'm just sitting at a desk here. It's actually not. It would not be that exciting. It would have to be dramatized. But anyways, Netflix hit record subscribers, and continues to grow. Speaking of Netflix, Tiger King, another great series on Netflix. I'm not going to reveal anything of it, but you need to watch it. It's just a train wreck of, these people actually exist. So, but anyways, one of the main stars of Tiger King is this gentleman named, his name is Joe Exotic. Joe Exotic. His real name is Joseph Malando Passage. And he was a Tiger King. He had a tiger refuge on there. Again, won't tell you why. Anyway, he's in jail for 22 years for conspiring to murder somebody who is also another tiger refuge owner, Carol Baskin. Anyways, Joe Exotic, also who ran for president. Joe Exotic, he's in jail in Fort Worth, Texas, in federal prison, serving a 22-year sentence, participating in murder for hire plot and various wildlife laws. As you can imagine, owning tigers, there's a lot of regulations that, a lot of people don't follow. Well, anyways, his lawyer and him had been trying really hard to get President Trump to give him a last-minute pardon on his last day before his term ended. It's very common for presidents to issue pardons and commutations and clemencies and whatnot during the last day. It's a power that they only have. They can do whenever they want. Been a lot of campaigning to get Joe Exotic pardoned. A lot of campaigns, handwritten letters trying to convince Trump to give him a pardon. It's like, the government treated me unfairly, just like they treated you unfairly. We're two of the same yoke here. Apparently Donald Trump Jr. Put out a Photoshop picture of Donald Trump behind bars, just like Joe Exotic and whatnot. The big government's trying to get him and whatnot. Well, Joe Exotic and his team were very confident. They were very confident that he would be pardoned and released. So confident they rented a giant Dodge truck stretch limo, had a beauty team on standby to get him all dolled up and whatnot. He's a very eccentric person. The limo was parked outside of the jail, ready to pick him up and take him off to freedom. He did not get a pardon. Joe Exotic was not on the list of 73 pardons and 70 commutations that Trump put out shortly before 1 a.m. on Wednesday. And, as you can imagine, he was a little upset. He lashed out at Trump afterwards, saying that he knew the real reason why he was not pardoned. It was because he was too innocent and too gay for Donald Trump. Yes, he's Joe Exotic is gay, but he was just too gay for the Republicans and too gay for Donald Trump, and also too innocent. He was too innocent. So, unfortunately, Mr. Malando Passage, a.k.a. Joe Exotic, remains in jail. Boy, yeah, it's. I mean, I feel a little bad for him. Hey, committed the crime, you do the time. But he seemed like he was really, really thinking that this was a done deal. Like, you don't rent a limo, send it to a jail, unless you think there's a good chance you're gonna get a pardon. So anyways, Tiger King remains in jail. You should definitely watch the series. Some of the other people who are in that show have had their entanglements with federal officials over their tiger possessions and whatnot. And then Carol Baskin, I believe, was on Dancing with the Stars as well. She did not win, but I believe she was on there as well. So it is you have to watch. It's the series. It is, when you use the words, it's a sordid tale. Words were never truer than that. Just some highlights here. Tigers, cult, sex cult, accidental shooting, expired pizza meat, hostile takeover, and the drug runner murderer is the most ethical person on the show. Now, watch it, and that will all make sense. But anyways, Joe Exotic, still in jail, not pardoned. Staying in the world of crime, a woman in Thailand was jailed for 43 years, and that sentence had been reduced. She had been jailed for 87 years for 29 violations of the law. Wow. 87 years, down to 43 years in 6 months, cut in half. What did she do? Was it fraud? No. Murder? No. Drug running? No. Insults? Yes. Yes, it is. In Thailand, it is against the law to criticize or insult the royal family of Thailand. Fun fact, you probably didn't know there was a royal family in Thailand. There was. I didn't know, all right? And I'm sure all of my fans in the Southeast Asian area knew that as well. All 8 of you. But yes, 8 million. I mean, between those two numbers. But in the it's a very strict law. You cannot criticize or insult the royal family, and it is known as a laissez majesté law. I'm saying that wrong. Amnesty International has criticized it as the longest sentence ever handed out for this sort of law. The criticisms about their spending and the way they live, very taboo in Thailand. The royal family is held up to a very high podium and whatnot. And just so you know, I have the utmost respect for the Thai royal family. Love to hang out with them. I'm sure we would be best friends. And in no way should this story serve as a criticism towards their policies. You gotta do what you gotta do. All right, that should be good now. All right, fantastic. Other human rights activists have been arrested on these charges, and we'll see what happens. A lot of pressure for them not to jail someone for 43 years for insulting the government, but she's probably going to be in jail for quite a while. Probably for quite a while. Another crime story that just caught my attention here. Someone stole a vehicle, which, hey, you know what? Crime happens, not unusual. The kind of vehicle that's stolen was unusual. It was a armored 4-door green camouflaged Humvee that had been upgraded and considered to be a combat vehicle. Basically, a relatively bullet-resistant Humvee was stolen from the National Guard Armory in Bell, California, Friday morning. However, it was recovered a few days later. No real word of why or who or how it was damaged. They're sort of not releasing a whole lot of details about this. But however, I would like to think that some I would say enterprising youths got into the base, stole a Humvee, got out, rode around for a few hours, realized, oh boy, this thing's low on gas. Oh boy, someone's gonna notice we have a Humvee. Oh no, we should just ditch it. Because it may surprise you, but it is a federal crime to steal from the military, and you could get up to 10 years in prison if they find out who these people are. But, like I said, this combat vehicle has been recovered. You may remember, and this was years and years, decades ago, someone stole a tank in California and ran over a bunch of cars, a few buses, ran down a highway. No one was killed, fortunately. Everyone got out of the cars, moments before this tank thing, it was a tank, got out. It was stolen by somebody, and it got hung up on those concrete dividers between the highways. Cops got up onto the tank as it's trying to rock itself off. Finally, they got it open, and unfortunately, they shot and killed the driver because the tank was about to go into competing into the opposite lanes of traffic, and that would have been a disaster. They got this Humvee. I'm sure they'll look for them, but if there's no fingerprints, they're only gonna look for so hard. They got everything back they wanted to get back, and that's probably gonna be the end of that one. Well, if there's one thing you definitely do not need on your evening commute is a tank chasing you or going into opposite lanes of traffic, running over your car. It just kind of ruins the day. But what you do need and will make your day is listening to my friend Rox during the Rock Sessions. It is AWSM Radio's drive time show, and she makes sure that your evening commute home is fun. It's featuring the hottest music on the charts and some surprises in between. My friend Rox will make it rock style Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. If you aren't listening, you're missing out, my friends. It's a great show to listen to. It's the Rock Sessions right here on AWSM Radio. Moving on to technology, smartphones, cell phones. What kind of phone do you have? iPhone? I've had iPhone ever since they had iPhone 3. So I used to have a BlackBerry, and that was kind of neat, the little keyboard on there and whatnot, but they're barely a thing anymore. And then before that, I had like a flip phone. This is way back in the day. I actually had a flip phone, flippity flip. But I've had iPhone for, I believe over a decade. Yeah, practically, if not over a decade, practically over a decade. So there's other phones out there. Samsung, that's an Android, folks. OnePlus, another Android, folks. Huawei, which I'm saying wrong, Android. And there's iPhone, which is Apple. Well, there's another phone company, LG. They were once a really big phone company. They make a lot of TVs, electronics, whatnot. But they're looking to perhaps get out of the smartphone business. They suffered a lot of losses there. They're not quite making the money they need with the smartphone division, so they might be selling it off. Now, a few years ago, they tried a gimmick where it was modular, where they had a phone and you could snap on different pieces to do different things. Snappity snap, clickety click. It did not take off, the whole modular cell phone concept and whatnot. I don't think people like to carry pieces and whatnot. And so that was kind of abandoned. And they're looking to sell. However, you might be worried, what about the LG employees? Well, apparently, according to the story and the source, that if they do shut down the smartphone division, whoever's employed there will just be moved to different departments they have in LG. So they're not expecting any layoffs or any job losses in the LG company, folks. But they're facing a $4.5 billion loss over the past 5 years, and the smartphone division is not helping them, so they might be selling off. Who would they sell to? Well, there's lots of folks out there. Samsung is one, obviously. There's a lot of other Asian cell phone companies out there. An American market may want to get in on the action, so nothing is really confirmed at this hour, but if you have an LG phone, friends, when you upgrade, you may want to dip that in bronze. Well, that'll probably melt. But, put it on a trophy because it could be a collector's item. Pretty soon, you may not be able to get an LG phone anywhere else because they're looking to sell their smartphone division. So, some breaking tech news here for you. You might have to be listening to my show, not on an LG phone in the future. You might have to go to a different phone because LG will no longer have phones to sell you. And then when it breaks, you have to get a new one. Keeping with technology, SpaceX, which is a private space company that sends things into space, they are buying some former deep-water oil rigs to serve as seagoing spaceports. Now, if you've seen a SpaceX rocket, it goes up in the air, and then it lands itself on these platforms, successfully most of the time. Sometimes they crash. But they were looking for these mobile offshore drilling rigs, and they can be moved around. They're kind of ships. They're very interesting how they move about the ocean and whatnot. And they bought two of them. For $3.5 million each. That seems cheap for an oil rig. You're right, because they can cost $500 million to make. These ones, they were built in 2008, and they cost between $330 million and $515 million. And they're no longer being used for oil drilling and pumping, and so they're going to scrapyards. And so they bought them basically pennies on the dollar for $3.5 million, and they are going to be turning them into spaceports. The people who owned these oil rigs they filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in August, so they were looking to offload. They were looking to offload some of these materials, these assets, and SpaceX bought them. And they're going to be renaming them the Deimos and Phobos, which are named after those are also names of two Martian moons that are orbiting Mars. And it looks like Elon Musk now has two floating spaceports. To quote him from a June 16th tweet, SpaceX is building floating super heavy class spaceports for Mars, Moon, and hypersonic travel around Earth. So I guess the idea is to have these spaceports in oil rigs because, ideally you want these things landing in the ocean and not on land for a variety of reasons. And now they have these somewhat mobile spaceport platforms. Obviously, it's going to take a whole lot of extra work to get them prepared for that. They just can't brush off the deck and say, "Yep, look at that spaceport." Gotta take out all the old oil drilling equipment, retrofit it, make it be able to withstand the landing of a rocket. But very interesting that this is, instead of something going to the scrapyard, reusing old oil rigs that are already very heavy and very strong as spaceports. I found to be very, very interesting. Finally, folks, SpaceX isn't the only space company in the game. Virgin Orbit, Virgin Galactic, Virgin Mobile, Richard Branson, that billionaire, he has his own little rocket company. Virgin Orbit launched a 70-foot rocket that was hooked beneath the wing of a 747 successfully into the air to send some satellites into orbit successfully this week. Now, you may think of getting into space, you would launch from the ground, but you don't have to. There are a lot of ideas and systems out there where a plane would get you started up in the air, you drop down, rocket would take off, and then you go the rest of the way. The idea being that, obviously, if you take off, you have booster rockets to help you take off of the Earth. They fall to the side because you don't take those into Earth. Well, instead of making these booster rockets, why not use a plane to get you up there, and then you shoot up the rest of the way? And this is sort of their plans on how to get into the whole private space market, sending satellites up into the air, would be to do it this way. So they have this big 747 plane, and they latch a rocket underneath the wing. Obviously, they don't use duct tape or anything like that. There's a system. Fly it up high in the air, rocket drops down, engine starts, takes off, then goes further up in the air and into orbit, which is pretty amazing. Now, it launched a group of tiny nano satellites that were designed by high school and college students who were, part of their classes to design and assemble small satellites to send into space. And it was successful. It was pretty amazing what they're doing with technology nowadays. Well, my friends, that just about wraps up this week's Saturday Report with me, Colt Sebastian Taylor. Thank you for joining me today and every Saturday, and also Sundays if you missed the show on Saturday. Sundays also at 11 a.m. And remember, you can find me online on the Twitter, the Instagram, the Rizzle at Colt S. Taylor. So feel free to engage with me on there. I'm mostly on Rizzle. It's a fun app. Check it out. And if you think there's a story I need to cover, or there's something I missed, or if you just want to say how wonderful I am, or terrible. Either way, I like the attention. You can find me on there. And of course, if you need a daily source of Colt Sebastian Taylor, taken in small amounts as doctors recommend, you can find all my adventures and what I'm up to every day at ColtSebastianTaylor.com. Bookmark it. Otherwise, you have to type it in every single time. So, until next time, my friends, I am, of course, your friend, Colt Sebastian Taylor, and I'll see you later.